start?
Yeah, start.
An entire self-consecration, a complete equality, an unsparing effacement of the ego, a transforming deliverance of the nature from its ignorant modes of action are the steps by which the surrender of all being and nature to the divine will can be prepared and achieved. A self-giving, true, total, and without reserve. The first necessity is an entire spirit of self-consecration in our works. It must become first the constant will, then the ingrained need in all the being, finally its automatic but living and conscious habit, the self-existent turn to do all action as a sacrifice to the Supreme and to the veiled power present in us and in all beings and in all the workings of the universe. Life is the altar of this sacrifice. Works are our offering. A transcendent and universal power and presence, as yet rather felt or glimpsed than known or seen by us, is the deity to whom they are offered. This sacrifice, this self consecration, has two sides to it. There is the work itself, and there is the spirit in which it is done, the spirit of worship to the master of works in all that we see, think, and experience.
He has given in short the whole thing. So let us see, okay, what he say. The chapter is equality and the annihilation of ego. Why is it come to this? Because the earlier chapter was the, if you remember, the supreme will. But we don't know the supreme will. We don't know what God wants of us. So how to get that? This is the way. Equality. You have to develop equality and then you will come. There will be no preferences. And if there are no preferences, the divine will automatically be understood by you. And the ego also has to go. So long as the ego is there, equality is impossible. Okay? So that's what he's saying. But it has to be developed in both ways. You try to be as equal, as unconcerned to events as possible. Unconcerned is you should not misinterpret. You have to do what work you have to do, but you should not be affected by it. And the annihilation, ego also, wherever you find that ego is showing up its face, okay, you have to become conscious of it first, then try to eliminate it. That's the most difficult thing, ego, because even in spiritual ego also is there. Okay, so anyway, so that's why equality and the annihilation of ego. An entire self-consecration. Good God. Entire self-consecration is so difficult. But it's a progressive thing. Mother says very clearly, sincerity can never be complete at the lower level. Okay? Impossible. But you have to start. You have to start somewhere. An entire self-consecration, complete equality, an unsparing effacement of the ego, a transforming deliverance of the nature from its ignorant modes of action are the steps by which the surrender of all the being and nature to the divine will can be prepared and achieved. A self-giving, true, total, and without reserve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, one sentence. Now, very interesting. Of course, he is saying this is the ideal condition. If the ideal condition is there, entire self-consecration, complete equality, unsparing effacement of ego, then as a transforming deliverance, you will be delivered. Delivered from what? Your nature. What is your nature? Body, mind, life. So you are identifying yourself with body, mind, life. If this entire self-consecration and complete equality is there, you will be released from the prison house of body, mind, life. Your soul will be able to come out. Okay? As the nature from its ignorant modes of action are the steps by which the surrender of all the being and nature. Now look at that. The being is your inner nature, inner being, and the nature, body, mind, life. That also has to be surrendered. The inner being will first surrender, your soul. That is easier. But the body, mind, life surrender is very, very difficult. But if these conditions are fulfilled, it can be done. A self-giving. Give yourself to whom? To the divine. total and without reserve. But who is this divine? He is telling you the true. The surrender of all being and nature to the divine will can be prepared. A self-giving, true, total and without reserve. Can you get this? It can be done, but you have to start somewhere. It can't be done immediately. So what is the first necessity? The first necessity is an entire spirit of self-consecration in our works. In other words, whatever work we are doing, okay? For us in the ashram, it is easy. You think of mother and offer it to her. But what about people living outside? When they are doing yoga, they will do that to their Ishta Devata. Okay? The principle is the same. It need not be to mother, but those who are doing outside yoga, they will do it to their Ishta Devata. Consecration. Everything that you do it for them and not for yourself. This is something that is very understandable in India, and it is always insisted on. Whatever you are doing, okay, do that. It always begins with a religious ceremony in India, not in the West. Okay, we have Saraswati Vandana or Ganesh is invoked. Okay, whatever, whether you are entering in a new house, Griha Pravesham, or you are a first child is born, the first time he starts eating, and the first time he starts being educated, everything it becomes a religious ceremony. Okay? So that is the self-consecration to the divine. The first necessity is an entire spirit of self-consecration in our works. Whatever we do is for the divine. It must become first the constant will. Will is difficult because it filters out very easily. You make a resolution. New Year resolutions are always made, but hardly ever maintained. So first is the will. Then the ingrained need in all the being. Normally it's easy for the mind, but the vital and the body, the vital is the most difficult. Body we can't even talk about at this level. Okay, but mother can talk. In fact, she is saying that every cell of my body is surrendering. That's a very, very far away thing. Even our vital does not surrender easily. It goes on protesting. Okay, so it must become first the constant will, then the ingrained need. Not the word ingrained. Okay, it is something right inside your flesh. Okay, it has to be there in all the being, body, mind, life, entire. Finally, it's automatic, but living and conscious habit. It becomes so mechanical.
Rangada,
Yes, tell me.
how can it be mechanical, automatic, and also living and conscious? Like it's a contradiction, no?
It is a contradiction at our level. But once it becomes a living and conscious habit, automatic, you have to give a slightly different twist to the meaning. Okay, because there can be an automatic unconscious action, but there can be a conscious automatic action also, no? Pallavi? You remember?
That is quite difficult, right?
Yeah, it is difficult. Of course, it is difficult. Very difficult, not difficult only, very difficult. But
Very
it has,
difficult.
yeah, that's right. There can be an automatic action, yeah, can be unconscious. Like when you forget, you go to the samadhi and bow down your head and all, but you're thinking of something else. So that is automatic,
Yes.
unconscious. But if you are thinking of mother and offering yourself or making a prayer and then doing the action can be automatic, but your memory is there. It's living. The automatic action should become living and conscious. That's what is meaning.
So automatic is physical, not the vital or the mental.
That's right. Yeah. But the automatism means it becomes such a habit that even the mind and the vital will automatically do that at a particular time. Yeah. Mainly it is automatic is physical, you are right. So, living and conscious habit. The self-existent turn to do all action as a sacrifice to the Supreme and to the veiled power present in us and in all beings and in all the workings of the universe. So, the divine is, he is giving you three types of divines. Okay? So, to the Supreme. Second, the veiled power within us. The Supreme is the transcendent. The veiled power within us is the individual. Okay. And the veiled power in all the beings and in the workings of the universe is cosmic. So, very difficult to do all together, but some people find it easier within yourself. Some people find it outside yourself in the cosmos. Some people find it okay in the transcendent. But ultimately, Srinivasa wants all the three. You must become conscious of all the three levels: transcendent, individual, and cosmic. Or rather, in the order: transcendent first, cosmic, then individual next. In synthesis, much earlier, he has said, some people find it easier to see the divine within themselves. Some people find it easier to see the divine outside themselves. It depends on the nature. Okay, there's no choice. There's nothing better or worse. All are expressions of the divine, and you can go to any of these. Now he's giving a very interesting example. Okay, a metaphor. Okay, and the metaphor is like this: life is the altar of this sacrifice. Normally, when you do a sacrifice, you build an altar, and then you have a fire going, and then you recite mantras and throw your ghee and whatever. So that is the physical sacrifice. But this is psychological sacrifice. Life is the altar of the sacrifice. Everything in life can be an occasion for the sacrifice. Every action that you do. Works are our offering. That's it. What is being offered. Okay. Homa. Okay. The transcendent and universal power and presence, as yet rather felt or glimpsed than known, because we don't know the divine, or seen by us, is the deity to whom they are offered. So it's an interesting image he's using, but the whole life, all the actions can become a sacrifice. And the sacrifice is remembering, offering, remembering and offering. Okay. The word sacrifice is dealt with in a huge manner. If you remember in the earlier chapters, sacrifice is there. Actually, there are almost 80 pages in the beginning. What is the sacrifice? Because the word sacrifice is very much a part of the Gita. No? So, the sacrifice, okay? Yajna. That's why he is explaining what is the sacrifice. It's not a physical sacrifice, it's a psychological sacrifice. Works are our offering, transcendent and universal power and presence, as it rather felt or glimpsed. But even that's good enough to start with. Then known, you don't know, or seen by us is the deity to whom they are offered. This sacrifice, every action, this sacrifice, this self-consecration has two sides to it. There is the work itself, and there is a spirit in which it is done. The spirit of worship to the master of works in all that we see, think, and experience. So, suppose you are washing dishes in the dining room. Okay, there is a mechanical action. That's the work itself. But you can wash the dishes and be thinking of something else altogether. What is there for breakfast today? What is there for dinner today? You will be thinking. That is the work itself. But then the spirit, if you do, I am cleaning this dish because I am going to offer it to the divine, and my work also I am offering to the divine, then that is spirit. So these two things he will discuss. The work itself and the spirit. We can go to the next para. The work itself is at first determined by the best light we can command. So, Tarika, you are there? You have the text?
Yeah, I have.
Would you like
I
to
have.
read?
Yes,
Oh.
Rangada.
Okay, go ahead.
The work itself is at first determined by the best light we can command in our ignorance. It is that which we conceive as the thing that should be done. And whether it is shaped by our sense of duty, by our feeling for our fellow creatures, by our idea of what is for the good of others or the good of the world, or by the direction of one whom we accept as a human master, wiser than ourselves, and for us the representative of that Lord of all works in whom we believe, but whom we do not yet know. The principle is the same. The essential of the sacrifice of works must be there, and the essential is the surrender of all desire for the fruit of our works, the renunciation of all attachment to the result for which we yet labor. For so long as we work with attachment to the result, the sacrifice is offered not to the divine, but to our ego. We may think otherwise, but we are deceiving ourselves. We are making our idea of the divine, our sense of duty, our feeling for our fellow creatures, our idea of what is good for the world or others, even our obedience to the master, a mask for our egoistic satisfactions and preferences, and a specious shield against the demand made on us to root all desire out of our nature.
Okay, so now it becomes very subtle. Okay. The work itself. First of all, he is discussing the work, and then later on he will discuss the spirit in which it is to be done. So the work itself is at first determined by the best light we can command in our ignorance. The work that you have to do, you do that to the best possible way that you are assigned to it. In the ashram, there is no difficulty. The work is given by the ashram and you do the work. So, if you are a doctor, you have to attend to each patient as though you are doing it for the divine in the patient. Okay? And when you are doing something in a department, you think of it always as though you are doing it for mother. Okay, so for us it is easy because we know that the Supreme is there with us here. The work itself is first determined by the best light we can command in our ignorance. We have to be sincere in what we are doing. We have to do it with as much perfection as possible. It is that which we conceive as a thing that should be done. So now Srimad is going a little beyond. If you are in the ashram, you are told what to do. But if you are outside in the world, what is the work that you have to do? You may have a selection, okay? And you want to do yoga. If you don't want to do yoga, the person doesn't arise. You just decide what you want to do and do it. But if you are wanting to do yoga and there are two things to be done, then you have to decide what is better for you to do, which will help your sadhana. Okay, that's what is meaning here. It is that which we conceive as a thing that should be done. If you have a choice, you have to conceive which is the better one for you for your inner progress. Whether it be shaped by our sense of duty or by our feeling for our fellow creatures, by our idea of what is good for of others or the good of the world, or by the direction of one whom we accept as a human master, wiser than ourselves, and for us the representative of that Lord of all works in whom we believe, but whom we do not yet know, the principle is the same. So, what he meant, what he is explaining, that which we can, the best light, okay? That's what he is explaining. Now, this whole para does not apply to us because we are told what to do in the ashram. But if you are not in the ashram and you are inclined to do good for others or for the world or for your family, that is what he is talking about here. Okay? So, it is that which you can understand. And whether it be shaped by a sense of duty. Okay? So, I have to look after my parents. And it is my duty to do that. So you do it mechanically. That's one way. Okay? Or you do it with love and affection and something that you have to do, not in a sense of duty and compulsion, but you do it because you want to do it. Okay? That's one thing. By our feeling for our fellow creatures. Okay? The fellow creatures can be your friend or your whoever with whom you are coming in contact. Okay? That is also one. You do it for them. By our idea of what is good for others. Okay? It can also be that what I am thinking should do good for others. Okay? But that idea can be wrong also. Sometimes when you want to think of the good of others, it may not be the right attitude, okay, or the right way. But what is your idea of good for others you do, or for the good of the world, okay? Or by the direction of one whom we accept as a human master. Ah, there you are. So this applies to the ashramites. Okay? or to the direction of one whom we accept as a human master, wiser than ourselves, and for us, the representative of that Lord of all works, in whom we believe, but whom we do not yet know. The principle is the same. Now, we can give the example of Sri Aurobindo because he was doing a job in Baroda. He was serving the Raja, Baroda Maharaja. Okay? But he decided that he wants to flee the country. So he was doing it for the good of the country. So he left and came here. Okay? But the divine had other ideas and sent him to Pondicherry to do some even better work. Okay? Bringing down the supermind. So whatever is your idea of the good, you select and do. Okay? In the best way that you can do.
Gangadhar,
Yes, tell me.
can I ask a question here?
Yes, tell me.
See, till mother was there,
Ah.
any work given by the mother was okay, it's mother who has given the work.
Yeah.
But now, usually the work is given by the in charge or like, and sometimes what you may feel is not, you may feel that should I do it or not? In that case, what should be done here?
Okay.
Let's take one very simple example I can take, like the COVID injection.
Okay.
Now vaccination. Now most of us know that the whole thing was, it is accepted also in the scientific circles that it did not help much and it had more side effects, especially the second and third dose. Anyway, I'm not
Yes.
getting into that. That one example I can say. So what to do now?
Yeah. Very interesting question you have asked. Okay. But if you are doing it for the human master, there is no problem, as you said yourself. If mother has told you to do, she knows whether it's good or bad. In fact, Archana, this thing you are asking is a very interesting question because it did happen in the ashram. Okay, I'll tell you a very amusing story actually. So there was an epidemic. Okay, I think in the 30s or something. Okay, if you remember, there was an Asian flu which killed 100,000 people in Japan. Okay, that was the time when mother was there and she had that experience also of she almost died. That Asian flu, it is a fantastic thing that happened. And she almost died, but then she said, this is not okay, I must look into it. And then she started looking, and then she found that it was because of the dead soldiers in the war, and they were bodiless and they were creating this trouble. So she attacked that force, and then the whole epidemic started reducing itself. She has told the story in the Azatya. Okay, so that time there was also in the ashram there was a time, but later on, okay, in Pondicherry there was and the government said that everybody has to take a vaccination. But mother and Sri Aurobindo knew very well that vaccination is not the right method. Okay, the right method, the vaccination is the wrong method because what are you doing? That very same disease you are putting into the body in a small dose so that the body learns how to counteract it. Okay, that's the principle. So that mother was against, and Sri Aurobindo also was against. In fact, this time when COVID came, this was being quoted also by everybody. Okay, so they were not in favor of it. So what did they do? The government was forcing you to do. So this question comes again what Archana is saying. If you are forced to do it, what do you do? Okay, so what Sri Aurobindo did was very interesting. He gave only 1 or 2 cases and he included one of the servants in it. And then they stopped. Of course, they had the power to resist the government directive. So there is no problem. But in our case, it had to happen. In fact, I'll tell you my own case. I did not take the COVID vaccination. So I was not allowed to go to school because the government said that those who don't take vaccination cannot mix with the crowds. And if they mix with the crowds, then it will be something that can be prosecuted against. So I was stopped from going to knowledge. That's how the knowledge started becoming less and less for me. But I resisted it. So it's an interesting question. But if mother was there, no problem. But if mother is not there, then The question that Rachana is asking is very, very valid. What do you do? Okay. So you can be either a rebel and say, no, I won't give, or you can say, I am doing it unwillingly. It depends on how much strength you have in your character. Huh? You can say, unwillingly, I am doing it because I am being forced to. But if you insist and I don't want to do it, I'll take the consequences. You can throw me out of the department if you want. I have the courage to stand that decision also. So there are so many different ways of approaching the question.
But Rangada, it also puts others at risk, no? If you don't do it in that sense, because others are not so very conscious or very strong to fight back. You yourself may be strong enough mentally, vitally, but it will put others at risk, no? If you come in contact with the others.
That's exactly what I said. It depends on the individual. He can decide so many different ways. Huh? So
then you have to isolate yourself, right? In this epidemic, that's the only solution.
Yeah, that's right. That was the thing. So it's a complicated question, but it depends on whom you are doing it for. And yeah, very interesting question. In fact, most of the doctors, including Archana Ji and all of them, they didn't take. Alok also didn't take, and Mandeep also didn't take. And later on it was proved.
No, Rangada. No, finally, Rangada, we were not allowed to sit in the. We were not allowed to do our work. So we had to take. We were not allowed to go to the dispensary, not to see patients. So then we realized that, we will be creating a bigger problem that way. So we all took, all three of us took. So that was just an example. I'm saying in many other situations also, sometimes what is being told by the whoever is in charge or any particular matter.
That's right.
Other people are for different. So in that case, this was a more general question. Like that was one example, which had, we all were at loggerheads, like doctors against the institution. Anyway, but we all had taken that time because we were not allowed to do our work. And then we decided, like 3 of us doctors not going. And especially during that time, afterwards we had to take. That's what.
No, you are quite right, because the others are suffering. Okay. Those who depend on you.
And also, and Rangada, also, if you are staying in a society, you have to, then you have to go by the society rules, right?
Yeah.
If you are not outside the society, if you are in the hills and forest, you can do what you like. But if you are in a society, because it sets a bad example for others who are weak enough and not strong enough to.
Yeah, these are difficult questions. Huh? There are so many angles.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
But again, if there are sometimes things that you don't want to do in society, and they are the rebels. Okay? So that we come back again to those chapter, the 4 standards of conduct. You can do it against the society. You can. It's not that you can't.
No,
but you have to
as long as it doesn't affect the society, it's fine. I mean, you can be rebel and you can do your own thing. But if it affects the society, then you can't, right?
That's right. That's what happened
if
to
you
us.
are staying in the society.
I had to take it because the others are suffering. So my decision, if others are suffering, then we have to consider again. Okay, your own. That's right. So there's so many angles to the whole question. Huh? So it's very interesting.
Oh, Rangada, even in Korea, there are actually not small, pretty many number of people. They resist the vaccination, and also some cases, the young people like high teens, they died right after the vaccination.
Yeah.
So I think the people who resist against the vaccination, they are not individual. They are pretty much part of the society, maybe less than 20%, but I think 10% or so. I think that's not just individual. It's also social, I think.
Yeah.
It's also social, yeah.
In fact, all these questions that we are discussing, Sri Aurobindo has put all the cases in that sentence that he is telling you. He is saying, by our idea of what is for the good of others, or the good of the world, or by the direction of one whom we accept. So if you see very carefully, all these questions he has already included here. See, what is good for others. Okay, I don't want to take the vaccination, but if I don't take, then the others will suffer. So for the good of the others, I have to take, or the good of the world, or the direction in one way. So Sri Aurobindo's language is so all-inclusive. You can see that he has considered all this, but of course the details will vary. No? In each case, it will vary. So anyway, that's an interesting question. That's why he's saying, in the best light we can come out in our ignorance. Now note that how well it is written. When there is a problem, you have to do it to the best of your knowledge and your own convictions. So there is nothing absolutely good or absolutely bad. Okay, very clear. The work itself is determined by the best light we can command in our ignorance. Okay, so when you are acting at the height of your consciousness, then that's perfectly okay. It may be a wrong decision, but you are acting honestly. Okay, so this, see how interesting this best light that he has put, it includes everything. Then we understand the way Sri Aurobindo writes. He takes into account everything. You have to decide what you want to do. Our doctors, 3
But
doctors.
Rangada,
Yes, tell me.
Rangada, my light won't be that best to see anything. And if I do it with my convictions, which are based on my ego, then how does it help?
No, that's why what is the best light that you have? It may be
See,
wrong.
at this present time, my best light won't be what the divine wills, no?
No, of course, that is possible. In fact, that's why he's saying best light. It
So
may
then
be-
at that time, we can be wrong.
yes,
What we are
absolutely.
doing.
But you are honestly wrong. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that is the most important thing. The action itself, you are doing in the best light that you have. You have to be honest to yourself. I remember we saw a film
Yes.
long ago, Saint Vincent de Paul. You know, we were all children at that time, and mother had shown this film. Okay, Saint Vincent de Paul. He was a saint, and there was an epidemic of plague in France. But he cared absolutely nothing for himself. He went and started helping everybody. He would have then got the plague himself, but he didn't care. So he is acting at the best light of his own decision. He is acting, I have to help the others. My own thing doesn't matter at all. So this is exactly what Sri Aurobindo is saying in this para. Very interesting. Okay, so it's 8:33. We have got 7 minutes. So let's finish the para. Okay, so the principle is the same. The essential of the sacrifice of works must be there, and the essential is the surrender of all desire for the fruit of our works. We must not have attachment to the fruits. I am doing some work, I want success, and it should be a success. That also should not be there. You have to do it to the best of your ability and leave the rest to the divine. Very difficult, but it has to be done. If you want to do yoga. If you don't want to do yoga, by all means, you must expect a result. If I'm writing an examination and I'm not interested in yoga at all, okay, so I certainly want a good result. And that's good because you must have a motive in life. If you don't have a motive in life, then we come back to Mother's famous science of living, okay? An aimless life is a miserable life. But on the quality of the aim depends the quality of your life. See how magnificent, no? This takes care of everything. An aimless life is a miserable life. Whether you are doing yoga or not, is not. You must always have an aim and a purpose and a goal. That should be there. But when you are doing yoga, you do the best you can, but the goal, you should not expect any result. There is a huge difference between the two. Okay, so the essential of the sacrifice of works must be there, and the essential is the surrender of all desire for the fruit of our works, the renunciation of all attachment to the result for which yet we labor. Okay, that should not be there. Okay, even if I'm told to do the work, this again I come back to Sri Aurobindo example. He was doing the work of liberation of the country, and he was suddenly put into jail. Okay, so he asks Sri Krishna, because that was he said, what have you done to me? I was doing such a good work and you put me in this. Okay. So there was a bit of a resistance in the beginning. He himself has revealed all this in the Uttarpada speech. No? So then it was told to him that you have an attachment to your work. You feel that what you are doing is important. You have to do it without feeling that. Okay. So I have given you what the attachment that you could not break, I have broken for you. Sri Krishna tells him. This is there in the Uttarpada speech. So you have to do it without attachment. Even at that level, Sri Aurobindo, he also, in the beginning, he is attached to the work he is doing. Such a good work he is doing, but there should be no attachment at all. Very difficult. But that's the idea. So we come back to our text. The essential of the sacrifice of works must be there, and the essential is the surrender of all desire for the fruit of our works, the renunciation of all attachment to the result for which yet we labor. For so long as we work with attachment to the result, the sacrifice is offered not to the divine, but to our ego. Okay? I want success. Okay? You may think otherwise, as himself saying. You may think that I am doing it for the Lord, but actually you are doing it for yourself. We may think otherwise. We are deceiving ourselves, but we are deceiving ourselves. We are making our idea of the divine, our sense of duty, our feeling for our fellow creatures, our idea of what is good, our idea. Okay, that may not be right at all. That's a question that Pallavi asked. Okay, but if you are honestly doing it, that's fine, because you are acting at the height of your own consciousness. Our idea of what is good for the world or others, even our obedience to the master, a mask for our egoistic satisfactions and preferences, and a spacious shield. The word spacious means it seems very, very reasonable and very, very correct. But if you look at it a little more detailed, then you will see that it is not correct. Okay? Spacious. Apparently good, if you want. Spacious. Shield against the demand made on us to root out all desire out of our nature. That's what he's saying. And we have got only 2 minutes. We have done 2 paras. We can stop here today. Okay, so I can do one thing. I can summarize it quickly. We have got 2 minutes. Okay. As long as we are in the ignorance of level 1, we can do the work, however imperfect and limited, only to the best of our ability. Man feels that this work that he is doing with some idealism is the most important and the noblest, but ignores the spirit in which the work should be done. So that's why we are discussing work and spirit. Okay, so the spirit is important. This work that he does is shaped by various limited ideals. Okay, the first is sense of duty. I am doing it because it's my duty to do it. Second, sense of helping others. Okay, I am doing it for others, not for myself. The idea of what is good for others, or for the good of the world, or the guidance of the human preceptor, who should be for us the representative of the Lord. Whatever be the source of action, the basic principle is the same. The work may be great or insignificant, but the spirit behind the work should always be the renunciation of desire for the fruit of works, nishkama karma. There should never be any attachment to the work itself. Okay? At any time, if circumstances necessitate the giving up of the work, there should never be any attachment, no hankering, no sense of deprivation. It should be glad, calm. It should be a glad, calm withdrawal. Then I have marked a note here, Sri Aurobindo and the independence of India. He himself has revealed that he was doing such a good work, but there was a little bit of an egoistic satisfaction in it. Okay? That has to completely disappear. The sacrifice of the Karma Yoga should always be directed to the divine. But the presence of lingering attachment to that particular work indicates that the work we are doing is for egoistic self-satisfaction and not for the divine. But this truth may not be easy to see and we are only deceiving ourselves. We may fool ourselves by thinking that it is for the divine or the larger collectivity outside ourselves. Then the divine is only a mask for our ego. That's what he's saying. So we stop here today, okay? And next we'll take up at this stage. Soki will make the note.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Au
Au revoir.
revoir. Bonne journée.
Bonne journée, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rangada. Have a nice day.
Each one is wishing the other, all the others.